Hello friends. I'm Alice. Welcome to JellyBean Journeys channel. Today we will see animals and explore the farm. Get ready for surprises and new discoveries. Let's start our magical journey together. Adventures in the farmland. I want to tell you about the time I visited my grandparents' farm. It was the most exciting day ever. As soon as my parents drove up the long winding driveway, I jumped out of the car and ran straight for the big red barn. I could already hear the cows mooing and the chickens clucking. I slid open the heavy barn door and my nose was filled with the smell of hay. The barn was huge. There were stalls along each side where the cows slept at night. At the back of the barn was the chicken coop. I ran over to pet Bessie, my grandparents' milk cow. She nuzzled my hand gently with her wet nose. "Hi, Bessie," I said. "I missed you." All the cows were so calm and sweet. I walked down the row of stalls petting each cow and calf along the way. They blinked their big brown eyes at me and swished their tails. Next I headed to the chicken coop to see all the hens. There were Rhode Island Reds, Barred Rocks, and White Leghorns. I sprinkled some feed on the ground and laughed as the chickens came running. They made funny chuckling noises as they pecked up each piece of corn. I had to be careful not to get pecked as I reached down to pet them. After exploring the barn, I ran outside to find my favorite animals, the goats. Their pen was just beyond the barn. I leaned against the fence and called, "Here, goats, goats." Immediately 2 fuzzy whiteheads popped up and began trotting towards me. It was Millie and Oliver, my grandparents' pygmy goats. They were the cutest little goats with tiny wagging tails. I scratched under their chins and fed them some hay from my hand. They nibbled it up with their funny square lips. "You're such silly goats," I told them. Next I headed to the duck pond to see if I could spot any frogs. The pond was buzzing with life. Colorful dragonflies darted around. Ducks floated peacefully on the water, tipping their heads down to grab snacks. I crouched down at the edge of the pond and stayed very still. Soon I spotted a fat green bullfrog peeking out from under a lily pad. I caught a teeny brown frog hiding in the tall grass too. Seeing all the animals made me feel like an explorer. By now I was getting hungry, so I headed up to the farmhouse. The screen door creaked as I walked into the kitchen where Grandma was baking. "What smells so good?" I asked. "I'm making blueberry muffins just for you," Grandma said. She pulled a steaming hot batch out of the oven. The muffins were perfectly golden on top. I nibbled on a warm muffin as I watched Grandma stir up lemonade. We sat at the picnic table under the apple tree to enjoy our yummy snack. After eating, I did some exploring around the farmhouse. I said hello to Ginger, the old yellow cat who was curled up on the porch. Then I climbed a big oak tree beside the house. I waved at Grandpa, who was getting the tractor ready in the barn. From the top branches, I could see the whole farm. The cornfields went on forever. Grandpa let me honk the horn when he drove the tractor by. The day was going by so fast. Soon it would be time to leave the farm and go back home. I didn't want this magical day to end. I grabbed a few carrots from Grandma's kitchen and headed back to the barn. Buttercup, I called out. A beautiful brown and white pony poked her head out of the stall. I held out a carrot for her and gently stroked her soft muzzle while she munched. She neighed softly like she didn't want me to go either. "Don't worry, Buttercup, I'll be back soon," I whispered. Spending the day on the farm was so special. I loved getting to see all the friendly animals. It was an adventure exploring the barns and fields. But most of all, it was fun spending time with my loving grandparents. The next morning I woke up bright and early, excited for another day on the farm. I quickly got dressed and raced outside, anxious to see all my animal friends. First I stopped by the goat pen, where Millie and Oliver were impatiently waiting for their breakfast. "Good morning, goats," I called out, filling up their food trough with sweet grain. The goats nibbled happily as I gave them each a morning scratch behind the ears. After feeding the goats, I headed to the chicken coop to collect eggs for Grandma. The hens were already up, clucking and pecking in the yard. I carefully reached under each hen to grab the still warm eggs. Some were light brown, others speckled and blue. I lined them all up perfectly in my egg basket. My next stop was the barn to visit Buttercup. "Want to go for a ride, girl?" I asked. Buttercup neighed excitedly as I put on her halter and saddle. We trotted out to the meadow behind the barn. It was a gorgeous morning, with tall grass still wet from the morning dew. "Let's go, Buttercup," I said, and clicked my tongue. Buttercup broke into a gallop, her mane flying in the wind. I felt so free and alive, zipping across the meadow on my beautiful pony. After Buttercup had plenty of exercise, I cooled her down by walking her along the dirt road. Farmer Joe waved from his big red tractor. Taking Buttercup out for some fresh air, he called. I waved back. "We're having the best morning," I yelled over the puttering engine. Buttercup tossed her head happily. When we got back to the barn, I unsaddled Buttercup and gave her a good brushing. Her coat shone like satin when I was done grooming her. She nuzzled my pockets looking for a treat. "You did such a good job today," I told her, offering a juicy apple slice. Just then, Grandma called me in for a homemade brunch. I gave Buttercup one last pat on the neck, then raced to the house. The kitchen table was covered in platters of fluffy eggs, crispy bacon, tall stacks of buttermilk pancakes, and fresh fruit salad. My tummy rumbled. I loaded up my plate and sat down to enjoy the yummy meal. Grandma smiled as I told her all about my morning adventure with Buttercup over brunch. "She's such a sweet pony," Grandma said. "I'm glad you two love spending time together." I couldn't wait to see where the rest of the day's adventures would take me. Thank you for joining me on this incredible farm adventure through JellyBean Journeys. If you enjoyed the story and want to see more captivating content, remember to subscribe to JellyBean Journeys for exciting updates, and hit the like button to show your support. Until our next adventure, happy exploring and safe travels. Goodbye, my fellow jelly beans.